Well, welcome, Towson from Wyoming. Thanks for driving 16 hours one way to have your target
pleasure.
panic deleted.
Nope. Thank you for letting me come
And
up.
Joel Turner did it in about an hour.
Yeah.
It's stupid.
Just broke you mentally. Just
Literally, though.
Puddle
Like,
on the floor. Like,
I was sitting there telling Dan, I was like, I don't know how he just did what he did, but he did. Like,
it's gone.
it was wild.
Yeah.
And you're a really good archer, like accomplished, really bow hunter. You've killed, I hate throwing numbers out there, but like piles of big mule deer and elk with a bow.
Yep. I'm at 26 muleys with a bow now and 22 bulls with a bow. So
Okay, he knows his numbers.
I've shot a few of them, but yeah.
That's nice.
Just gets after it. And then you used to work in an archery shop.
Yes, I did. Yep. I ran an archery shop for about 6-7 years, and then I still do it on the side. People send me their bows, and I'll fix bows up for them and then ship them back out to them. So yeah.
Okay.
Nice.
And you've never met Josh before?
No, besides yesterday. Met him yesterday at his house. So.
I don't see him anymore. So like if he's in town, I'm gonna like go.
Hey, bitch, you have my schedule. You know when I'm here.
I do.
Other than
you
might shift a little. One time, me a break.
Well, you're just not home a lot anymore.
I'm here like close to 15 days a month.
Yeah, but those days are numbered too.
They are, but I'll always make time for my friends.
Nice. Well, we got to make a video today, which was kind of cool. It wasn't like a sexy video, but it's a video that archery nerds are going to like.
It's a video everybody needs answered because everybody's wondering about those 2 sites this year. So especially those 2, you guys covered 3 or 4 on there, but there's 2 specific ones that everybody's asking about, everybody wonders about, the UltraView slider, the new one, and then the Excel driver.
What are you running there, Towson?
I've got the UltraView. So I got the Matthews UltraView, shooting a Lift XD right now. And I agree with what Josh said. Josh covered it perfectly. Like the sight gets a 9.5 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
The biggest issue for me is the pin. I shoot single pin for everything. I always have. That sight post in that sight is giant. Like it is so thick, and it's been my number one complaint with it. And I hope they do something once they come out with just the normal UltraView, maybe not the Matthews version. And I hope they come out with just like one single fiber in there, and they can make it smaller. I almost wondering if they added more fiber, and that's why it's so thick, to make it brighter. Because I did run the UltraView last year, and the UltraView last year was dim. Like those pins were super dim. Like you shot in an indoor arena or anywhere like that, you had to have your light on constantly. Yeah. I've never had to turn the light on with the new sight. So I wonder if that's maybe the catch-20 on it, is they went to a thicker post, and that's what made the.
Well, I'm going to ask you, Josh. You hunted in Texas with us with that sight, and you were in a dark ass ground blind. Did you have to turn the light on?
I went on 4 different hunts with that sight.
Were they 4 ground blind hunts too?
They were all ground blinds. Yeah.
Talk to us.
I ran into some really odd anomalies with it. So you did need to, but it wasn't for the reasons you'd think. It was dark in the blind, but bright outside, because every animal I shot, it wasn't low light. It was actually relatively bright. And you'd like look at your sight down in the darkness, and the fiber showed up, but as soon as you put it up in the window, the fibers went away. Wow. I even called him about it twice. I was like, this has happened to me like 4 or 5 times. I can see my pin just fine, and then I move it up into the window, and all the pins were gone. I've shot 3 of the animals I shot with no fiber. Like I just put my pin on where I thought the fiber was and shot because I couldn't see it. So that's why I said you had to turn it on. Like, and I don't know if it's their tinting or their coloring or the covers of the fibers in the plastic cage, but if you go from like dim to bright, I think it dims the fibers down. And they had said they'd never heard of it. I'm like, well, it's happened to me like 3 times so far on animals I shot, and I just knew roughly where the pin would have been in relation to that big black bar. But anytime I tried to shoot that at distance, like I went and shot a little, game around with some of the guys a couple weeks ago, and I didn't even shoot the bow. I grabbed my Bowtech because I knew what pin was on it, and I knew I could aim with it really well. And I just really struggled to aim with that pin. And I know it's big because they're trying to house that 15 fibers. Yeah. It's their own size, right? The UltraView is the only one that makes a 15 that I've seen. I could be wrong, but that's the only one I've seen, and I haven't seen a 10 in that yet, and I just don't know, is the housing going to get a lot skinnier on the fiber when they do it? And I've been tempted to take the old scope and put it on that sight, because I had no problem aiming with a SE3 with a 10,000 double pin or single pin. Like it's fine, it's bright. You got to use the light for most of it, which when you're hunting and you can't use electrical, that's kind of a
Yeah,
Debbie Downer,
yeah.
right? You almost have to have a couple different bows and a couple different setups, I think, for different states at this point.
What's
instead of just taking
interesting
the
to
same
me
one.
is you both are. You met somebody taller than you. Finally.
Yeah, he's got me beat by like at least an inch.
Yeah, but bro's got like way longer
Oh
arms.
yeah,
than
I
me.
got,
What's your
I got
shot
knuckle draggers, man. So
Josh is 30 and a half. 30?
yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm 32.
32,
I got
so
a 6'8" wingspan.
Yeah.
Okay, but you both historically have always hunted with single pin.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
Well,
definitely.
we probably came from an era where bows were slower, but we had long draw lengths.
Yeah,
So we had
I've-
speed.
I've never had to worry about speed.
I've never had to worry about speed either. So sorry.
Yeah,
Well,
sorry.
hey, you get less pin movement than we got. So there you go.
No doubt.
That's
But
just
I
reality.
guess what are the pros and cons? Why don't you stick with the pros? Josh, you stick with the cons of hunting elk. This is ELKSHAPE. What do you think?
That's tasty.
Yeah,
What's
these
the
are good.
You tell me about the pros of hunting with a single pin, and I'll have Josh cover the cons.
So the way I was taught and the way I always ran with a single pin is I would set it at 30 in the woods. Then I knew I was just a couple inches high at 20, and then I would get out and actually shoot my gaps. I would leave my sight at 30, and I would shoot out to 50. And I would take that gap, and again, I have a long draw length. Speed's never been a factor for me. So my gap, a lot of the times from 30 to 50 was like 6 to 8 inches. And so if an elk came in and it was deep, at 50, I would just essentially hold on its back and send it, and then you're hitting high lungs every single time. So I had one pin for everything. I hate multi-pins. Single pin has always been proven to be more accurate. That's why, tournament archers, target archers, everybody shoots a single pin because it's way more accurate. And so I've always shot a single pin. I hate seeing things inside my housing. I've been blessed. I have 20/10 vision. And I hate seeing things. It drives me bonkers. So, I've always just left it like that, and it's always worked for me. And anything outside of 50, you should be taking the time to range and dial anyways, because your variances out at past 50 is a lot.
All right,
So-
Josh, good luck.
Well, Dan, one, you've heard that same exact thing before, which is when I convinced you to do it, and you just hated it anyway. But literally everything you said is the exact same thing I've said, 100% with one change. I said it at 35. I don't set it at 30.
Well, yeah. See,
But that's it.
Yeah.
100%. Single pin is proven to be more accurate across the board, period. And you can hold a little high, a little low, and pull off a shot out to 50 yards without moving it. So what do you have all the crap
and I
in your
think
sight
it's
picture?
easier
And I
than
also
pin gapping, Mike.
it is 100%. And I also
Gosh.
have 20/10 vision. So this is really weird.
Yeah, this is
it was
kind of
I shut my eyes and went, God, this sounds like I'm talking. This is wild. So the negatives, obviously, is you can forget to move your sight. That does happen. But you can also forget to pick the right pin. Like you throw up a range and you're excited and go 43 yards and then draw back and put your 20-yard pin on it and shoot subconsciously. It's the same mistake. It's just different. Range it, forget to move your sight, or go shoot a tournament or that sort of thing. Shoot a target, get distracted with your buddies, jaw jack, whatnot, and forget to move your sight at the next yardage.
That happens
yeah,
a
you
lot.
have
That is
to- you have-
always when I do
Yeah.
it. I don't do it hunting. I do it when I'm shooting tournaments. I was
Hunting,
shooting with
yeah.
Tim Gillingham, beating Tim Gillingham, right? We get down to the last target. We're sitting there talking BS and having a good time. Just a local shoot in Utah. And I draw back on this mountain goat. We just shot a 30-yard shot. We get to this mountain goat, 50-something yards. Cool. Draw back, anchor in, freaking just beautiful shot. My arrow bounces off the ground, skips into the leg of the target. And I'm like,
Hey,
what
that's
just
a
happened?
5.
And Tim walks over to me and he goes, great shooting with you. You forgot to set your sight. And I was like, you knew? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, why didn't you
course.
tell me? And he's like, I'm not going to tell you. And I was like, thanks, man. Appreciate it. But yeah, no, I always forget. If I'm going to forget, it's in a tournament. I don't forget hunting for whatever reason. But tournaments, 100%.
Several times I've gone out to the flat range and shot out to as far as the bales go, and then walk up to the first target and forget to set my sight and shoot right over the target, hit the tree right behind it.
Yep.
Yep.
That's the downfall to it. But once again, I've never done it when I'm hunting.
Yeah.
Ever. Never once have I forgot to set my sight hunting. It happens in target. It never happens in hunting. Outside of that, I can't give you a real negative. I can't. Because I can shoot 0 to 50. I know how high to hold or how low to hold at different yardages.
Yeah.
I'm covering what a 4-pin sight would cover, right?
Especially
So
now
why
with,
have it?
Yeah, especially now with the multiple fibers inside of a single pin, you've got different aiming reference points. So
If you need it.
if you need it. But again, I've never really had to use it. I've
Me either.
always used my top pin. In fact, if they'll come out with the new Matthews bridge lock with just one fiber in a single pin, I will run that and get rid of my three fiber single pin.
I can't. God,
They will.
You guys,
I guarantee
you
they
guys are
will.
doing a really good job right now.
Yeah.
I killed a couple bulls last year at 54 yards. I killed 2 bulls last year at 54 yards exactly, and I had a 4-pin.
Mm-hmm.
I slid to the exact yardage on both those bulls.
The only time you're not going to do that is when it's rushed. It's very likely it's not going to be 50 or farther in that scenario.
Yeah.
Or like, I don't have any time. I just have to draw back and shoot. Well, that's probably inside of 50. Like, you're telling me you're not ranging an elk at 54 yards or 60 yards. You're going to.
Yeah.
The only time you don't range usually is within 0 to 40.
Yep, when they're
Right?
stupid close.
And it's stupid close and it's moving quick, and you can totally get away with it at that point, which is why I've always shot the way I've shot.
I think if folks try it,
Yeah.
they'll see what you're talking about as far as that clutter gone.
Yeah.
You can't argue. It is more accurate.
It's so soothing, Dan. it's like a
so
warm blanket.
much better.
It is. It's just so cozy and comfy, and your brain's just like, and you put your pin in the middle of the target, and you look at the target, and you don't look at the pin, and everything's circular, and everything lines up beautifully.
Perfect.
It is a beautiful thing.
It's soothing. Like, you're gonna shoot better.
And my problem is it actually multi-pins makes me come in from the side.
Yes, it
like,
does.
Like
Absolutely
I
does.
have to come in from the side
I
with
do too.
multi-pins because I'm trying to get that point to the target.
Yeah.
And like with a single pin, I can come in from anywhere.
Yeah.
Especially now after yesterday. Like I just,
Well, we should
I don't
probably-
even think about it. I just go in, bloop, and I'm aiming. But with multi-pins, like I have to come in from the side to get on the target.
Mm-hmm.
So when did you first realize that you had target panic?
So last year I was shooting Mountain Archery Festival in Wyoming, Antelope Butte, and we got up on top of the ridge and the wind was cooking.
Can I get an elk tag for there, please?
For Wyoming? Yeah.
No,
oh.
for where you were.
Yeah,
shooting
no,
that
there's
3D.
a
Oh
lot
my
of good bulls
God,
up
that's
there.
in the.
It's pretty country.
It's my favorite mountain range.
Yeah.
But anyways,
So I'm there. We get like 2 or 3 targets in. I'm getting blown all over the place. I shoot a hinge, as I've always shot a hinge for years and years, hunted with it, everything, except for now. Joel gave me a 1X clicker. I'm shooting that pretty well. I
yeah,
like
Joel
that release.
gave him one.
Yeah, he was just like,
Well, Joel probably doesn't
He's
pay
like-
for that.
throw
I
your hinge
understand, but
away.
it's still
Yeah.
Joel. Like,
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really
It was
nice.
pretty cool. I appreciate it. But yeah, so anyway, so I get on target, getting blown all over the place, and like it's getting bad. Like I'm getting frustrating. And at the time, I didn't realize it either because I had just thrown a quiver on my bow, and the quiver was actually coming in contact with the limbs. So I was getting weird lefts and rights.
Oh, boy, yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
and so
that'll do
that
it.
didn't help. I didn't realize this till after the shoot. So anyway, so I'm shooting, and we get down to this big standing grizzly bear, and I am so frustrated at this point. And we get to this big grizzly bear, and I shoot, and I miss like a 8-foot tall, 3-foot wide target. Miss the entire thing, and I threw my bow. Like I straight up
bet.
Tim
I would
Gillinghammed
too.
it and
Yeah.
threw it. Like I've shot a lot of tournaments, and I've never missed a target. Like, and I was just like, what just happened? And so I was so frustrated. Get off the mountain. And I ended up getting second place still, which, you know, like, again, it's not the placement. It's just frustrating because I'm not shooting what I know I'm capable of shooting.
Right.
And so after that, it just compounded and it just got worse and worse and worse. And I was like, okay, I'll just make it to indoor this winter. And once I get to the indoor, there's no wind, no nothing. Like, I'll be fine. I get to indoor and I'm shooting a Vegas 5 spot, or not Vegas, NFA 5 spot, blue face,
Yeah.
shooting the top right target. And my pin got stuck on the bottom right, and I couldn't get it off. Like, and my entire life, I've been able to just put the pin on and just execute a shot, no problem. Never had an issue at all. Never, ever. Like, I couldn't get it off the bottom, and I was doing the meanest drive-bys you've ever seen. Like, just like pins getting close, wham, and I'm yanking through my click, not even getting to the click on a hinge, like yanking through a hinge. Like, it was terrible.
It's pretty bad then.
Yeah.
That's
and,
rough.
And yeah, so for me, an individual that like I have to shoot my bow every day. Like it's part of my daily routine. Like I have to do it. I love it. Like it got to the point where I was like, I'm about ready to put down this bow and never pick it up again. Like I was just so frustrated. So yeah. And that was when I reached out to you. I texted you. I was like, hey, like, is Joel's online course worth it? Cause like at that point,
That's what
I
it
would,
was.
yeah, I would try anything. Like I would try anything to get rid of this target panic.
Yeah. Okay, that's what it was. I was like, why would you reach out to me? I don't know shit about archery, but yeah, Joel's course is worth it. But what would be even better is if we could get a one-on-one with Joel. And fortunately, it just worked out timing-wise where he was coming through town. I was like, he'll be driving through here. Can you get here? 16-hour drive later.
When you called me or when you texted me, you're like, hey, this date, can you make it? And I was like, I don't care what I've got that day. I will be there. Like, it does not matter. Like, I will make it. So, yeah.
It was pretty interesting to see how fast he was able to be a psychologist. I wouldn't say it's just psychology.
Yeah.
It is.
It's what it is.
Yeah,
it's tricking your brain.
He didn't do anything with my form, didn't change my form at all, didn't critique me on form, nothing. Like, it was literally all mental. 100%.
Knowing what you know now, how could you help those listening that maybe are either in denial? And maybe Josh could even speak to those that are in denial. You've seen the guys that are in denial.
Sure.
Or those that are like, hey, I feel like I'm developing, like, would you recommend Joel's course or
yeah,
or
1,000%. Like, I've already had people message me since you posted that video yesterday of, Joel sitting there tapping the crap out of my hat. Like, I had probably 15 people message me last night, and they're like, so you're saying there's a cure? Like, you're saying you can get rid of it? And I'm like, 100,000%. Like, I would, a lot of people don't really believe in the mental aspect side of things, like therapy, stuff like that. Like,
really?
Oh, yeah. Like, everybody, I mean, where I was raised from, you know what I mean? You got to be tough. There's no mental aspect. Like, there's no mental fatigue or nothing like that for human beings. You know what I mean? Like, it's all, you just need to get tougher. There's a huge mental aspect. Everybody, like, it's science. Like, mental plays a huge fact in everything you do in your everyday life. So, people reached out and they're like, this can change, this can go away. And I was like, yeah, do it. Like, I would recommend it to everybody. Like, even some of the best shooters in the world could sit down with Joel and learn a thing or two mentally for themselves. Because shooting yesterday, like, just shooting on the course, right? Like, I knew I wasn't going to hit where I wanted to hit. Like, I had just learned a whole new, essentially to me, way of shooting. And I still shot good. You know what I mean? I still made great shots. But I had like zero, like, jitters, like zero, like, my confidence was at an all-time high. Like, shooting was fun again for me.
Right.
We went on that range and we were shooting. Like, I met with a couple dudes I never even knew. One of the guys we shot with works for you, placed 8th in Vegas, right?
Yeah.
We got a camera in our face. We got the great, Dan ELKSHAPE there shooting with us, and like, zero jitters at all. Like, I was just having fun. I was just shooting. My confidence skyrocketed. And I'm so excited to take that back into, take it back home, take it into my daily practice, and also take it back out onto the course. Like, I've got a tournament on Friday. Like, I'm shooting the final leg of a Triple Crown down there in Cheyenne. And like, I'm stoked to go shoot it. Yeah. Like, I'm not nervous to go shoot this course anymore. I'm like, let's go just destroy some people. Like, yeah, it just feels great to be shooting, like, in control of my shot again.
Yeah, I mean, I would put the use of Joel's program over any piece of equipment you're going to buy.
Yeah, 100%.
Hands down. Like, if you think about it, well, if you think about it, if you're going to spend like $300, it's like $300 or $200 or something, somewhere in there. But if you're going to spend another, $300 on a new site or $300 on a new release, I guarantee you, well, let's say release.
Yeah.
I guarantee you're way better to pay for his program than you are to buy a new release. Now, granted, after you get through his program, you might want to buy a new release. That's very possible, right? But
trust me.
it's just, it is amazing how many people are in denial of it. And all you got to do is watch them when they fire their shot. You can see if their wrist drops or not before they shoot. Or you can go up to them and say, all right, just hold on the target and I'm going to fire it for you. And watch them freak out when it goes off. If you freak out when it goes off, you know it's going off. It's pretty easy to see. And it's, honestly, if you know it's going off, it's dang near impossible to not react to it. There is a small percentage of people that can control their shot and forcibly make it go off and not react. But even the guys that shoot that way, you'll watch them flinch hard periodically.
Oh, yeah.
And when they miss, their misses are
way worse.
They're big.
Yeah, they don't just barely miss. They miss by a lot because they're flinching, right? No different than someone who's got target panic really bad, flinches a lot when it goes off because they're trying to forcibly move it around when it goes off.
Yes.
Because your brain goes fire and your left arm goes, I'm not on the dot yet, or I'm trying to push it back or whatnot. You can see it, and that the only way that's happening is if you know you're making it go off. And to me, there's not a better way than a surprise.
Yeah, no, and like a perfect example of that, the second leg of Cheyenne Triple Crown. So there's 35 targets, right? I shot 22 12s, the highest 12 count out of everybody there.
22 out of 35 12s.
And I shot 8 8s on top of those 22 12s. Like, when I missed, I was missing
missed the whole
big
thing, yeah.
every single time. And now, like, I've shot probably close to 200 arrows just since we worked with Joel yesterday. I shot all night last night. The
Yep.
no wind, beautiful weather here. I was like, I'm taking advantage of
You
this.
better, 'cause that's-
yeah. And then I
That's
came
rare.
out this morning and like there's no wind, and I was like, I just waited for that sun to peek over the mountain and went and shot a bunch of groups this morning, and like my misses were minuscule. Like I'm still just I've got pictures of 60, 70 yards groups with 6 arrows just touching each other, just wadded up down there. So it feels good again.
If we're being real, and I'm going to throw you under the bus a little, you did this whole deal with Joel, spent a good hour, then we went over to the archery shop, said hi, and then we walked out. First shot,
I slammed it. Yep.
you went back to your old ways,
I
dude.
punched it. And so Joel got on me and he's like, what are we doing? He's like, that can't even be in your mindset. He's like, you've got to get rid of that out of your mind.
You have to delete it.
You have to delete it.
Yeah.
And so the rest of the time it was, and this is what's wild and what blows my mind with the whole thing, is I'm not even thinking about aiming at that target at this point. Like I am just looking at the target, and then like Joel said, you got to get loud. And so like I'm talking to myself through my shot process the whole time, not even thinking about aiming, not even worried about where I'm hitting. And I was telling my buddy who called me last night, and he's like, well, you fixed? And I was like, I don't know how my shot hits where it's hitting right now, but he's like, I'm smoking stuff. Like I'm not even thinking about the shot process, not even really aiming. I'm just staring at that target and I'm executing my shot. And when I execute that shot, it's hitting right where I want it to, right where I'm looking.
Yeah.
And that's all I'm doing is I'm just staring at the target, looking at the target, and that arrow's hitting where I'm looking. It's wild.
So I had the best testament of that mentally, personally, probably like 7 or 8 years ago when I was shooting. I was shooting a 10 power lens on indoors with no dot. With no dot. No, I had a theory. I had a theory, right? That I'm not going to have an aiming reference. I'm just going to look at the middle of the target. There won't even be something to aim with.
Oh, so you were no dot, no pin.
No dot, no pin.
Wow. Okay.
And dude, that arrow went where I was looking every time I fired it. The only time I missed is when my eyes looked at how far it was moving out of center.
That makes
If
sense.
I stayed focused on the middle and just kept looking, and it went off, even when it looked like it wasn't in the middle, as long as I was still looking at the middle, it went in the middle.
Yeah.
I would have bet you money. It was like, dude, is that a 9-line or 8? Because I swear to God, that drifted out there. But when I went back to misses, I could tell I looked at it go out there.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can keep your focus on the middle of the target, and that's when it really proved in my head, if you can just stare at the middle of the target and don't let your thoughts drift off of that, it will go there.
I got an analogy for all this.
Okay.
I'm serious.
Let's hear it.
This is your first shot at Spokane Valley Archery where you went back to your old ways. You ever watch golf where there's a whole slew of people at the green, and let's say it's on the 18th hole of Augusta, and everyone's like, blah, 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 and they put those signs up that like quiet, and then the guys like you can't hear anything. It's just the guy getting ready to putt. That was you on your first shot.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen Happy Gilmore where like everyone's quiet? They got the be quiet signs, and
Yeah,
he's
and he's
like,
yelling,
no,
get out there.
everybody.
Let's go.
Yeah.
That's how you have to be with archery. You cannot like have the quiet signs and go through your shot process anymore ever again. There has to be a rowdy, not always, but a conversation until it breaks.
Yeah.
And if you go to a dead space quiet sign, you're going to go back to trying to control everything.
Yeah, and your body naturally, like I didn't even fire that shot, right? Like my first shot when we went down there and shot the Spokane Valley Archery course, like my body went back to natural reaction, and as soon as my pin got on there, I held for a few seconds, got to the click, and it wasn't like a terrible wham. I literally punched that thumb release as soon as as I got to the click and everything got on target, boom, punched it. And that's because I was being quiet in my own head.
Yep.
And I wasn't thinking about it. Like, and that's something that's so cool about it now is like, I feel like I can go into any space, any any competition, any type of, pressure scenario and just be loud in my own head and execute a good shot. You know what I mean?
I love it.
And it shows with, you take Bodie, for example, who's been living Joel's stuff since day one, right? Bodie's a phenomenal shot. Like he's incredible. That Vegas win he had, where he shot a 27 inside out on the X ring, is probably one of the most amazing things I've ever watched as far as archery goes. Like,
Oh God, yeah.
I'm watching that. I'm like, this is bonkers. Like, this is just wild. And you know, it's funny because I'm good friends with Kyle Douglas. Kyle Douglas has always been one of my good buddies. And I texted Kyle and I was like, we got to get Bodie a girlfriend or something. Like,
screw him up.
Get his mind off archery, man. Like I was like, what do we got to do to beat this kid, right? And so, but like, I don't know if you can. You know what I mean? Like when he gets on stage, when he gets behind a bow, he's just like, he's there. He's in that moment and he's shooting that shot. And it shows. Like, it's incredible.
Well, and he's got an incredible way to engage and disengage. Like, if you watched him when he was shooting those things and when he'd make one that would just touch, he'd react.
Yeah.
Like, heavily.
Yep.
And whoop, next arrow, calm,
Right
focused.
back to it.
Boom, and then allow yourself to physically react. Like, I was shocked. I hadn't seen him react like that, like animated. And I think he's mentally gone from already really good to I can't be stopped.
Yeah, literally.
I really believe that after watching him allowing to be emotional, and no, because that's obviously changing your heart rate, it's changing what's going on, right? It's increasing, and then being able to re-gauge right back in and get through that, like.
Yeah.
I think there's no stopping him, period. And I think that's going to last 10, 20 years.
His face when they're like, we're going to go to inside out, he just looks up at the sky. He's like, oh my gosh. He's like, here we go. Like, and he knows he's shooting the fattest arrow there.
Right.
And you got people like Matthias Fullerton who switched over
arrows
to micros.
Oh, yeah.
He switched to X10s.
That's probably smart.
And if I was him.
Well, no, it's not because he immediately got out.
Yeah.
Did he?
If I was him, I would have shot him in the practice and had a mark on my sight.
Yep.
Set right to it because he tried to adjust on the fly.
Oh,
like
no,
you could
no,
tell
no.
he didn't have a mark because he shot the first shot low, starts going, shot the second shot a little bit better. Third shot, he was touching the line. Like if he had 2 more shots, he would have won Vegas because he'd have been smacking with those X10s in the center. It'd been easier. But yeah, the fact that Bodie beat a dude who was shooting 23s and he was shooting 27s.
Yeah, that's sick.
Right.
That is
Insane.
sick. Do you guys, did you know how James did? Lutz?
Jimmy?
Or Jimmy Lutz?
Jimmy
yeah.
Lutz? I don't
He
remember.
got beat out like, I don't know, it's like 10 through 15-ish range. But
He's one of my favorite guys to watch who does pull a Kyle Douglas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But when he switched
Shut
to an index at the
Lancaster,
Lancaster,
that
I
was
was
great.
like,
it looks freaking smooth.
it does.
Like, it
does.
looks so
And there's not a
smooth.
lot of duration. It's like pin on, set in.
Count to 3, boom, it's gone.
It is automatic.
Like I was counting it every time I watched that whole sequence, and every time he drew back, I'd wait for him to hit anchor, and I'd start counting. That son of a bitch didn't get past 4 seconds.
No, it's
like
it's
how
so
are you even
automatic.
getting centered and
robot.
squared before
So
then?
automatic.
And just as soon as it's
Especially
there,
with 30-inch bars, like to be able to settle in on target, like
That
for
fast.
anybody that's never shot 30-inch bars, like it takes a second to get
It'll
those.
take you a
Once
little
they
bit,
get there,
for
it
sure.
stays there. But like it takes a second to get there.
yeah, it was wild.
No,
and once again, when your comment, which I 100% agree with, when you shoot that way, when you miss by a lot.
This big,
Dude, he almost got a 9 when he lost.
Yeah.
right. He almost missed the whole 10 line.
the whole 10 ring.
Yeah. And you could see it. And he called the 11 or whatever, the bonus.
Yeah.
Oh, I know
Right
what
before-
what
right-
happened there.
What?
So I believe he's a rise up
Yeah.
punch.
Yeah.
And I think he rose up past. He called the what's that worth on the at Lancaster dot?
The 12.
The 12.
Okay, so he calls a 12,
But he
but-
doesn't, you don't have to shoot it.
Right. But I believe I heard him say he just forgot that that's what he called because he needed to hit that to win. And he rose right past it.
Mm-hmm.
And then he doesn't know how to bring it down once, you know what I mean? So like he pulls back, he's not thinking 12, he's thinking X, and he goes right past the 12. And then his mind game's done. He can't bring it back down.
Yeah.
And so he had to shoot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But whatever.
I'm interested to see how long he continues to shoot the wrist rocket. I wonder if he'll keep doing it or if he'll switch back to a thumb again.
Well, honestly, I think I'm going back to it
Oh, yeah?
personally. Well, just I've never had
Hell
an anchor.
yes.
I've never had an anchor point that good. Like when I get that knuckle back in there and I get the length set right to where my finger sits around it right, and I get my nose on the string, and that creeps at all, my head moves. With a handheld, if it creeps forward at all, my head doesn't move.
Yeah.
Right. And there's just I've never felt as locked in as when I shot a wrist strap.
See, and I'm that way with my hinge just because I shot it so long.
You don't have a hinge anymore.
I don't. Yeah,
You're
no,
done.
I've got
I don't
I've
want
got
to
a stand 1X clicker now, but that's what I'm getting used to is getting my anchor point now with the thumb button because it is substantially different.
Do
It is
anchor
different.
points really even matter?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Hold on.
I mean,
We're talking circle on a circle, fellas.
Okay, so that's easy. Well, you want to go first?
no. Well, I'll go first. I'll
ahead.
let him elaborate.
just playing
'cause
devil's advocate
He's
here.
better at elaborating, but like, yeah. I mean, if you don't like, where you anchor is not as important as to being able to anchor consistently, because if you can't anchor consistently, you will never consistently shoot the same spot.
Fair.
Like it's plain and simple. Like I always do this for people. I always use iron sights on a rifle. Like that's the easiest, because a lot of people have grown up shooting iron sights. You've got your rear aperture and your front aperture on your iron sights on a rifle. If you don't match those up the same every single time, like you're gonna miss.
Yep.
Like teaching people in the military, like, we're shooting M4s with those, tiny apertures and stuff like that. They'll use the biggest because it can flip, right? Your rear aperture can flip up and it'll have this giant circle. And they don't have to look as hard to look through it. So they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna use this giant circle. I'm like, bloop, I flip that down every time, go to the smaller one. I'm like, use that, line it up. You'll be way more consistent.
Yes.
So it's a matter of consistency, not as much as where you're anchoring compared to being able to anchor consistently. Like you take Cam Haynes, for example. I hate that anchor point, like with a passion. Like people will come in with that. I'm like, change that right now. I'm like, don't do it. And they're like, why? Cam does it. I'm like, he can do it. It doesn't mean you can do it. I was like, there's way more consistent spots, but like, yeah, he anchors behind his freaking head, thumb on the back of his neck, but he does it consistently every single time. So,
Well, I agree with everything you said 100%. Your ability to point a bow accurately is largely dictated by a bone-to-bone contact again from your hand against your head, period, regardless of what kind of release you're using. And to the argument of Cam, when you stick your thumb behind your head, you have like multiple different movable pieces of your hand that are attached to that are trying to hold that square. I know that because in like the late 90s, I stuck my thumb behind my neck and I was like, this is awesome. It locks in really good. And then Oh yeah. I shot like that before Cameron Haynes ever put a picture out of him shooting like that.
Okay.
Way back when I was trying to get my original anchor point developed, because nobody really taught me where to anchor. You just, you stick your hand back here and you look through a peep and you shoot. Well, if you don't have good, solid, non-adjustable bone structure against bone structure, you're going to be inconsistent. If you don't touch like at all, it'll float around 4 times as much because your hand cannot just sit there and hold it and not move.
True that.
It's impossible. You have to rest it against something so it doesn't move. It'd be like holding a rifle stock and not putting it against your shoulder. Holding your hands out in front of you, not pressed against your shoulder. Try to point and look through that thing. You need it rested against bone to bone so it doesn't move. That's the whole point. And the way Cam does that doesn't actually sit that way. You can sit there and lock your thumb and hold it in place, but there are a number of muscles and joints attached to that. To do it consistently, arrow after arrow after arrow, is damn near impossible. And when you run the ridge of your knuckles on your jawbone, which is what most people do when they're rolling a hinge or a thumb button, it is bone against bone, but you can move it up and down your jaw and it feels the same. When you push the foreknuckle of your fist into that pressure point behind your ear, tell me you can't feel that every time. Exactly the same. And that's why I honestly think I'm going to gravitate back to that, because I just cannot get the same comfort of anchor point. And if you don't have a target panic issue and you can physically finger squeeze a trigger, why wouldn't you do it?
Hey, we're going to interrupt the pod real quick to let you know about one of our favorite partners, Montana Knife Company out of Frenchtown, Montana. I've been to their factory. I've been to their facility. I've met their team members, and they're awesome. Josh Smith was introduced to me a while back. This is a guy who's been a master bladesmith since he was little, but also he was a blue-collar lineman who eventually got the gumption to go all in on himself. Him and Brandon started Montana Knife Company. They're kicking butt. They've been on my radar for a while, and I've been partnered for over a year now with Montana Knife. If you're in the market for a knife that you can pass down generation to generation, something that's fixed and is going to stay sharp and you can break down your elk, check out the Stone Goat, the Mini Goat, the Blackfoot. They have a variety of knives. They have drops that sell out every time. So head over to their social or their website or their YouTube. Check them out. Follow along to be notified when their next drop is. We will even do more down the road, exclusive ELKSHAPE drops like we did this year. That thing sold out. Montana Knife, great company, great people, amazing knife that will last you a lifetime. Hey guys, we interrupt this podcast to let you know we are brought to you by OnX Hunt. Out of Missoula, Montana, these guys are the original gangsters when it comes to digital mapping for your mobile phone or your desktop. If you're like me, you spend a ton of time e-scouting, OnX Hunt, especially elite members, you can take that map, turn it into 3D, and really get to know the lay of the land from the comfort of your own home. And when you're elk hunting like I am, I'm running tracking all day to know where I'm at, where I'm going, and where the elk are going to be. I'm never worried about getting lost. I know exactly where I am, and I'm never worried about trespassing because I know where I stand with OnX Hunt. If you want to save some loot and become an elite member and have access to all 50 states, enter the discount code ELKSHAPE at checkout. That'll save you 20%. Thank you on X. Hey guys, going to interrupt the pod to let you know about one of our awesome partners, Peaks Equipment out of Bozeman, Montana. Peaks makes an array of backcountry stuff for those DIYers. So the first thing I'd recommend is the Duo headlamp. They have a green and a red. Both of them produce a white light. Each light has 3 different settings. You can hold a button down to make sure that it doesn't turn on in your backpack. All USB-C rechargeable, and the battery lasts a long time. That's probably my favorite product from them. And they also have gaiters to keep your boots and your garments dry, especially in those spring bear hunting scenarios or when it's raining. Shelters, they have a whole host of tarps and teepees, sleeping bags, stoves. They continue to put out awesome backcountry products that are proven to help have a more successful experience in the backcountry. Head over to their website or check out elkshape.com. If you're on the Peaks website, enter the discount code ELKSHAPE to save yourself 10%. Peaks Equipment continuing to change and elevate the game in the backcountry. Back to the pod. Yeah, I really like exposure yesterday to that
The Solix
clicker.
Yep.
Yesterday, I do have one concern, and we can talk about it, but I had Riley get a little lesson from Joel. He's got a RS on the way. You know, he's kind of a slow blinker. You know what I mean? He's a very even-keeled guy. He's going to be good at archery.
Oh, yeah.
Probably better than me.
100%.
I'm a very type A, you know, it's impossible. My wife literally said, why don't you compete at archery? Last night, out of the blue. She's like, seriously, like, you're so into it and you're like a nerd about it. Like, you're good. You should compete. And I was like, it's not in my DNA to be a competitor at archery. I would be the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
Type A, like 1,000%.
Well, in all fairness, you're internally competitive when you shoot against people
right.
horribly. And I've seen it because I know you care and I know it really matters to you. You try not to
and you
like,
gotta
let that in, but
that's not
you will.
the formula.
No, you have to be shooting against yourself.
Yeah.
Realistically,
definitely.
or you're probably going to have a breakdown as it gets tight. You just have to focus on yourself, and that would be difficult for you.
It's tough.
I mean, you are 1-0 now against that Matthews kid from Spokane.
You beat Michael?
Or Michael, yeah, Michael.
Yeah.
Michael walks up to him yesterday and goes, I challenge you to a shot, 105-yard antelope. Dan freaking 12 rings this goat for a shot. And Michael goes, I don't know if I could beat that. I'm like, you're not going to. He shoots a high 8. And I was like, yeah, well, sucks to suck, nerd. But yeah, so if he watches this, you're down to Dan.
And I'm never going to challenge him.
Never
1-0, undefeated, I'm out.
Stay right there.
Walk away.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
And shout out to Michael for 8th at
8th of Vegas.
Like, so proud of
Yeah,
him.
no, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Especially
cool.
a local kid. That's cool.
Yeah.
Back to this clicker.
Yes.
So, dude, I love how the clicker is snapping you like out of autopilot.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So that's how he got Target Panic, is he went to autopilot and Target Panic goes, oh wait, no, put the signs up, or put the signs down, I should say, on the putting course and make some noise. Talk to yourself. And you did a good job, but that thing, can you adjust it so it gets to the click not as easy? I mean, I breathe on that thing and it goes click, and I'm like, no, I don't want that.
You can adjust all of that, and it's still new and kind of finicky to play with, and I've felt a lot of variance from one to the next to the next to the next, and how you adjust them. But the day they came out with the thumb button clicker, right, and actually it was before they released it because I saw it early. Joel told me about it, and then I talked to them, and they sent me one, and I immediately called them and said, "When's the 4-finger version coming?" Because you're talking about the majority of people still use a 4-finger release.
Really?
Oh yes, the majority. The wide majority.
No, I don't. But
No,
yeah, they'll use it especially so they can get that squeezing motion where they
I
can
got you.
roll their
I got
pinky.
you. I just, yikes. Okay.
Yeah, so no, like a finger trigger style release is still largely the most common thing used in archery, because you got to remember 90% of the bow hunters are east of the Mississippi River.
Oh, we
shooting
said
deer
that
at
on
20 to
video
40
yesterday.
yards.
90% are whitetail.
Yeah,
And of that, 90% are index.
exactly.
So listen up. This is a great, and that's kind of how we started the video. But Josh, I love an index. Can we get that clicker 2.0? Like, I want him to get that figured out. I don't want any variance. I
That would be
want to
nice.
set it to where
Yeah.
I get on it and I can get a little bit, because I'm pulling. This is a fixed position. I don't squeeze. It's in and it's second knuckle.
Yeah,
for
and
me.
then you pull back,
And I pull that hand through the strap.
That discharges
and I
it,
want to
which
hear
is
the
how I
click,
shot.
and I want to go, oh, like, I almost want to, like, Joel said it beautifully yesterday. He's like 366-inch Ranch Bull, Colorado. He didn't say ranch, but I'm throwing that in there. Ranch Bull. He said 15 yards away, and then he hears click, which could have been, it's just like the best sound in the world because he's already put it on aim and he's talking through and he hears click, and it's basically like, I got you, sucker.
Yeah.
You know,
It's over.
It's over. And I love the idea of that click just keeping you not getting tricked into the moment and, and not going into autopilot.
Right.
So can you talk to those guys? Because I would probably switch.
Yeah, I mean the rigid version of it might be a little more user friendly because it can't flex around, so you're dealing with movement, right? In a cord attachment that turns and rotates,
right?
So I haven't tried the rigid one yet, but I will.
Does the rigid have like
we had it
all
here.
screw in or all thread where you can actually
still,
shorten or lengthen it?
Yeah, you can still lengthen it or shorten it.
You
but
have
it's,
one.
I know.
You just haven't.
I haven't
shot
played
yet?
with it.
Okay.
No, I tried the original one because I've always shot a web. And monkeyed with it a bunch, and it does give you the same sort of mechanism, but it doesn't feel as clean, and that's what most people end up going to a handheld for because you're squeezing through this thing, and it's like this doesn't feel as clean as a good thumb button trigger. And I know there are 3 or 4 wrist strap style releases, and Jimmy Lutz shoots one of them, the Execute from True Ball.
They still make that?
Oh yeah,
okay.
And it's clean, like it's legit clean. The Scott S2 is pretty clean. The RX1 from Carter's pretty clean.
What about the Like Mike 2? Is that one pretty clean?
It's decently clean, but the distance from the hook to the trigger mechanism is way long.
It is pretty
The
far.
RX1's still kind of up there.
Bring them closer to each other.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, well,
Dude,
Frank
Josh
points.
knows his indexes. I will say that.
100%.
Holy shit.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them out there, and there's other brands that make quite expensive ones, and that's because the mechanisms internally are cleaner. They just it hasn't been something that a large percentage of people have been willing to adapt into a target format. And target archery kind of dictates what releases are considered the best releases.
That's
so
true.
unless you can get target archers to say, I'm going to shoot a wrist strap release, it's going to be a hard sell in the $200 to $300 market. In the under $100 market, yeah, it's all slappies and wrist strappies, and that's fine. Well, it is. Well, and the majority of them are doing that, right? That's just the reality of it. And then at some point they break down. And they've gotten used to this style of a release, so the human brain says, "Okay, I need to go to a handheld or something.
Yeah,
I need to change what I'm doing.
I need a honeymoon."
And that's how you end up. That's how you end up over there. But if only there was something in that range that still shot correctly and cleanly, that maybe they never need to leave that thing.
How much is the Solix going for?
$120
See,
or
and
something
that's
like
good
that.
because
it's a good price.
Which one is it from Scott? The Execution or the
the Scott
or
is
the True Ball? The True Ball.
True Ball's
sorry.
the Execute.
The Execute. Thank you.
Yeah.
I had one of those when they first came out.
That one's pricier.
because that's a double sear, correct?
Yep.
And yeah, it's like $300 for that.
Yeah.
It's an expensive. It's expensive.
You could
wrist
get a
rocket.
primary and a backup.
Yeah.
And still be saving loot.
But that Solix, I would rather have that Solix just because of the click. You know, with having what I learned from Joel, I got to have that click in a release now. And everybody's like, I take the click out because it gives me target panic. And they're looking at it
because you're
all,
not thinking about
yeah,
the right
they're all
thing.
looking at it completely wrong. Now I'm like, I have to.
I don't have a click in my thumb. But if I were to go to an index again, I don't think I'd want to index without a click.
100%.
Like that just made so much sense to me yesterday.
No, it is. It's perfect, and I just wish it was on a wider variety of things, or Stan would make a much higher quality version of that same release.
Even if it went to 150 so they could do a better sear system inside of it, perfect.
Dude, I don't care how much it costs.
Well, I'm just thinking the consumer rate, you know what I mean?
Well, if you can hand a consumer a wrist strap release that functions as good as their handheld release, that's a $300 price point structure, right? So if it's under $300, it's like, hey, this is as clean as that, does the same thing that does, way more user friendly for hunter. If it's strapped on you, it's a way easier thing to use. Yeah. It just makes a ton of sense to me. But our market in the last 10, 12 years has tried to push people away from wrist strap releases by saying these aren't accurate, those are accurate.
So
that is not necessarily true.
To kind of, when are you making your decision, or when are you going to start?
I'm going to play with them for the next 3 months. I've got 3 or 4 more bows to finish building, and I'm going to play with them throughout all the different ones.
I'd love a follow up, or at least even just tell me what you find out in your journey.
Yeah.
Because I think for elk hunting specifically, I have lost a handheld. I always have a backup in my marsupial, and if I'm being honest, I have a backup in my pack, and it's the stand. It's the one you the single hook thumb. What's that one?
Axis.
Axis. So if you ever see an axis on my hand,
You lost two
I'm on my
releases.
third, and now it's strapped.
down.
Yeah.
But,
well, that's part of why I like the Axis, because it is still a wrist strap.
Yeah.
It's still attached to you. There's a time loss when you're shooting a handheld release because it's not attached to you. You go, oh God, I got to grab my release. Oh, I got to hook it on the string. The Axis is an open hook, just like a single hook wrist strap release, even though it's a handheld. And that's what I shot all of last year. Even in Target, I still shot it. It's like, I'm going to use this for a long time, get really comfortable with it, and figure out what about this I like and what about this I don't like. And I kept gravitating back towards, why is it just not a finger trigger? Because I don't have a problem firing my bow with this. I never did once I learned how to shoot a bow correctly. You could hand me a wrist strap release, finger trigger, and I'd hook my finger around it and just pull and fire it just like you would a thumb. Execute it the same way and have it be way more user friendly. And for one reason or another, it's like, well, I just need to shoot a $200 or $300 handheld because these are better. I'm like, well, I'm not convinced they really are in a good style mechanism. And a company like Carter, for example, that makes high end releases across the board, they don't make a cheap release. They make lesser expensive wrist strap releases, but none of them are of poor quality by any means. And the mechanisms in them are really clean. So that's definitely one to look at. And that Execute, even though it's like $300, I bet you money that thing is as clean as it gets.
It is. It's super clean. It's got a true double sear system in it, and it's very, very clean when that thing goes off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm gonna buy a Solex, and I'll have a Solex because I got like an admin pouch on the left side of my bino harness, and I will have it in there as a backup. But two, I would like to get to the point where I could shoot. Just for me personally, I'd like to master what Joel taught me with the thumb button, get that absolutely dialed in, so it's like programmed in my brain, and then I would like to try to do it with a wrist rocket and be able to execute, do what I need to do with the wrist rocket and bounce back and forth between the thumb. I would just like to be able to shoot whatever release I want and execute a good shot.
Yeah, your only issue is going to be they're not going to hit in the same spot. But
no,
you
yeah,
just
100%.
readjust it
Yeah, they
and call it a
change just
day.
because anchor points and everything changes. But yeah.
Dang it, Josh. So yesterday changed a lot for me. I was like watching that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk a little bit of bow hunting since that's kind of what I'm into.
Me too.
Me, Trey.
So you're a Wyoming resident.
Correct.
Let's just be honest. You are going to get an elk tag.
100%.
You're going to get an antelope male or any antelope tag. You'll also get a doe antelope tag.
Yeah, if I want, I don't shoot does and cows. I don't know why. I just
That's fine,
don't.
but you
yeah,
could.
I'll have a buck tag. I put in for an area. It's a guaranteed draw every year. So
You'll have a mule deer tag.
correct.
You'll have a whitetail tag.
Yes, I will have. So Wyoming will be Wyoming elk, whitetail, muley, antelope, spring black bear. I'm actually going to do turkey this year too, just because I've never shot a turkey and I was like sick. I got
Just like elk hunting.
I got 6. Yeah, we'll find out. But yeah, so I got 6 tags in the state of Wyoming, and then I've got my Idaho elk tag again as well. So I'll be hunting Idaho again, and then I'll be going back east. I'll be hunting Tennessee, Arkansas, and Oklahoma this year for whitey. So I've got a real bad whitetail addiction right now. Like,
That's awesome.
Nice.
I walked into your gym with Riley the first night I got here, and the first thing I noticed is in that back right corner, there's this giant non-typical whitetail, and I was like, "Where did that come from? That thing is sweet." Yeah,
And then you walked into his.
yeah. I walk into Josh's house yesterday. I'm like, "Holy whitetails!" I was like, "Yeah, this is awesome." So yeah, I have a bad problem with whitetails right now.
Whitetails are fun.
It's
man.
just fun to hunt them. Yeah, they're just a cool species.
Yeah.
But high country mule deer will always be number one for me, followed right behind elk. Elk is elk. Yeah, it's just a whole nother experience. But yeah, you feel like a straight up ninja when you're spotting stock in high country muleys. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
And I've got a buck found this year. Well, I found him last year. If we have a good season, he'll go over 200. So I've
That's the
scratched
goal, right?
I've scratched the 200 mark. I got 194 typical with my bow. Shot a bunch of like 180 class deer, but yeah, I want that 200 mark. It'd be cool. So
That would be cool.
That's a sick number to get to.
yeah,
It's not easy, man.
I think it's harder to get a 200-inch mule deer now with the state of the mule deer herd than it is to get a 400-inch bull.
I agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
No, you're
rarity,
not
man.
wrong. Well, Josh, what are you thinking?
For hunting,
Yeah, hunting, fishing, every day.
I ain't fishing. I don't got time for that.
Yeah, I bought a lifetime hunting license in Idaho finally,
Yeah.
and Riley's like, "You can get the fishing too."
You didn't do that?
Hell no, I
You
don't
cheap
care
bastard.
about. Well, I don't
should.
fish.
You should.
Well,
I
so
don't
what?
fish.
Well, yeah, but
I
like,
could care. I'll never want to fish.
eventually,
Some
you will.
states they'll actually let you pass it down to your kids.
I-
I'm not sure if Idaho's
Screw
one of
my
them or not,
kids.
but
No, I'm going to hunt as much as humanly possible. I don't have a ton of stuff set yet, but I will.
Okay.
I'm kind of waiting for draws before I pull the trigger too much on anything. I am going to shoot a bear in the Quinault in
That's Washington State.
yeah at the reservation in May.
Have you ever done that?
Nope.
What do you know about it?
I know my buddy Gio was doing it, and I called him to see if they had any room, and he's like, "Well, you can take my spot. I'd pass on it, and you can have it."
Cool.
All right,
And
cool.
you said, that
Yeah,
sounds
sure.
good.
Well, it happened to fit my schedule.
Perfect.
Yeah, the rest of May is completely screwed, and now that 1 week, or no, I think there's another week in there where I might be home, but all of May I'm going to be gone. Damn.
You going to spend any time cultivating your property up north?
Yeah, I'll get to it a little bit. We're gonna my buddy Nick will be up there a lot working on it and
Good.
trying to clear the roads out and whatnot because they're getting really brushed over.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. I mean, have you heard anything on whether they're gonna make baiting illegal in this state? Have you heard any scuttlebutt?
Oh,
I know I hear lots of rumors.
my crystal ball shows that they're going to eliminate. We could bait in
I
Washington
thought you
forever.
guys got rid of bear hunting in Washington.
No,
Oh,
it's
we're
just-
talking-
we're talking about
Oregon?
deer now.
Talking
Oh,
about
deer.
ungulates now.
Deer.
Yeah,
Okay.
ungulates.
We've always been able to bait ungulates,
Okay.
and huge fan of it. Unashamed. This guy,
No,
right
100%. Why not?
Yeah.
here.
I mean, could you imagine
I've got a
trying
great
to kill
argument.
some of the whitetail back east if
We
you
should
couldn't
prob-
bait?
We'll
Like,
probably get into it, but
Yeah.
we'll probably get into it. I feel like we'll have you get into it, but I will say, last year they had a chronic wasting disease incident
One.
just over the border, and then they just threw caution, and then I think they had one in North Spokane,
Yeah.
and so they're like, no baiting in all the units that border Idaho. And I was like, well, I'm turning my tags in anyway. So I turned all my tags into Washington. I'm done with it. But if I lived here, I would want to be able to bait.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why. Actually, I'm going to have Josh tell you why.
Well, my standpoint of it is being fair to everybody, right? So in places where you can't bait, you can food plot if you own land,
Yep.
right? Nobody, as far as I know, there's no laws anywhere that you can't hunt over a food source. It just
Or
has
water.
to be. It just has to be a natural
Yeah.
food source. It has to exist, right? So basically, if I decide I want to plant an apple orchard, or I want to grow an alfalfa field and not process it or harvest it, or if I want to grow corn or whatever, and I own land, I can do that. That is an unfair advantage to someone who doesn't own land.
Yeah.
And these are supposed to be the state's game, right? So I don't own the deer, you don't own the deer, the state owns the deer. So they're allowing someone who owns land an advantage over someone who does not. And I struggle with that. I think either you should be able to hunt over food or you can't. Period. I don't think it's fair.
Well-
don't get me wrong. I have the ability to do those things.
Yeah.
I have ability to take advantage of those things where a lot of people don't. If I want to hunt in a state that doesn't allow baiting and I want to grow a food plot, I'm damn well going to do it. I have no reservations about it. Or I'm going to lease a place that does it, right? Because I want to hunt and I want to be able to hunt a lot. So I'll spend the money on it. I just don't think it's fair to the average guy. I think either you can hunt over food or you can't, and that's where the line should be drawn.
And to be honest, too, it's just like a shed closure for shed seasons. All it does is keep the honest people honest. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many people out there that are going to go and bait in states where it's illegal to bait and shoot animals over bait.
It's illegal. It's illegal in Tennessee, and they sell corn at every Walmart.
Yeah, at every
really?
single Walmart.
Oh, the
everywhere
same
you
deer
go.
bags you can buy here are
Yeah.
for sale in every
can't
Walmart
bait
in
in
Tennessee.
Tennessee, huh?
No,
No,
dude,
you
you
can't.
can't put out scent.
But you can in Arkansas.
Yeah,
And
but
and
Arkansas you
people will be
can.
like,
Kentucky you
I'm-
can.
I'm buying corn to go to Arkansas, and then they'll just go spread it all over their property in Tennessee and shoot over bait in Tennessee anyways.
Huh.
Or they'll leave standing corn and they'll take all the corn. Same thing as he was just saying. They'll take corn from private property and whatever's left over, they'll take it and just spread it across all their fields. And so
Yeah.
there's just corn laying all over their fields anyway.
Well, our friend Troy Pottinger, look him up,
Okay.
does not hunt over bait.
Whitetail nut.
And he does it all through synthetic scrapes
That's cool.
and about 1 million hours of scouting.
Yeah, you have
and
to have
scavenge.
so
Which would also
much
be
free
illegal in
time.
Tennessee. You couldn't use a synthetic scrape either.
Really?
Yeah, you cannot have any form of attractant, period.
Yeah, you just have to be all natural.
I've
Yeah, I'm
killed
pretty sure you
only-
can't even put in like your own little water hole thing. Like if it's not naturally pouring out of the ground right there, you're not allowed to do it.
From 2009 to 2019, so we'll call it a 10-year stretch, I was hunting a very big mountain area. So there are whitetails that live anywhere between 4,000 to 6,000 feet, which is crazy.
Yeah.
There's no ag.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
That's odd.
it's tough. And it was in Washington State, and I was running a bait site and there's rules where you can only have 10 gallons of bait on the ground. And this was a place that was a pain in the butt to get to. Like there was no driving in, riding in. It was all on my back. Okay.
Okay.
And I did it for 10 years straight. And how I found this spot is I literally 1 year hiked in, found this beautiful pinch, saddle, rubs. I threw out a bale of alfalfa compressed. I put a trail camera on video camera mode, walked away. Didn't come back for a year, got it, threw the card in, and was like, holy shit, there is some really good deer
Just
here.
whitetail everywhere.
Yeah. And so that was the first year. And then from there on, so in 2014 and 2017, I shot 2 bucks in a 10-year effort. Okay. 2014 was a double main beamed on the right side. He's in there. You'll see him.
That's
He's
rad.
mounted, shoulder mounted. He's just at 150. And then the other one is just a really awesome, typical 152, weak ass eye guards. If he had eye guards, he'd be probably pushing 160. Beautiful frame buck. I knew about both those deer. I hunted them over bait for basically 10 years. I killed 2. Neither one of them I ever killed while they were eating food ever.
Yeah.
They never would come to eat food during daylight hours. The only time I killed both of them is because of a hot doe and because they still wouldn't come to the bait. The doe would be on the bait or in the area, and
They'd
I'd
just
have
sit
to
back.
shoot them randomly at some weird distance. So I'm not defending what I'm doing. I'm just saying, like, it's not as easy as you think in that situation.
Yeah, it's not a guaranteed slam dunk just because you can feed. It's more a matter of being able to control or dictate where the activity is probably going to be, and that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people that bait, they're like, as far as my whitetail experience goes, they have stands in the tree line on the paths to the bait because those big deer will hold up on the edge of the tree line and not come into the open field. The only time they really do finding this out is when you get like a state that has a late season, like you can hunt January.
There you go.
And they're
Then you
waiting
got it.
whenever after the rut, they're completely depleted and they're like, I have to eat, otherwise I'm gonna die. And then they'll come out. And so when I found people are shooting the biggest deer is January time.
Post-rut
So
January. Yep.
that's what Josh had the best whitetail day of his life. I got to be there and witness it. It was post rut. I mean, it wasn't what I really wanted, which was that protein.
Yeah.
I really want to do that, but like still, those deer had to eat.
Yeah, and they knew they were deprived heavily, and they were coming to the feeders, controlling the feeders, and just monging on the food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have no shame in that. I think like any type of bow hunting that's legal and it's in the doc, like it's in your regulation, and it's just expels out what's legal, what's not, and you're following the rules and you're transparent. You don't try to like make it look like something
don't
it's
make
not.
don't make it something that's
I
not.
have no issue with it.
Well, and here's
Nor
the
should
thing.
you.
Here's the thing that's super cool about it. Like, and this is one thing I really like about whitetail hunting. It's not necessarily like people call it deer shopping. My buddy calls it deer shopping. He's like, why would you want to sit in a blind and deer shop? It's all the work that goes into it. Like I grew up on a farm. I grew up ranching, running cows, doing that type of stuff. Like the cultivation, the food plots, the hanging the stands, the reading the wind and knowing where to put things, like that's the super cool thing to me about whitetails. Like I love all the work that goes into it.
Yeah.
Like me and my buddy are going to film bear baiting this year just so you can see, like people think like you drive up to a bear bait and you drop a truckload of stuff off and drive away. Like it is so much time, so much energy, so much work to get a bait site set up, to get the, keep it going, keep having food there. It's expensive. Like you got to find, some backdoor stuff at restaurants and like use cooking oil or old donuts and stuff like that to be able to keep doing it. But like, there's so much work that goes into it. It's not easy. There is nothing easy about baiting. Like maybe if you're going to a guide or an outfitter that's like already pre-done
and they're
for
doing
you.
the work.
Like, and maybe that's where people get the idea that it's cheating or that it's easier. But like shooting a bear over a bait is tough. Like there's so much work.
I'd rather spot
into
and
it.
stock straight up.
Oh yeah,
I don't have the time to bait because it is so much time.
It's time consuming.
It's twice a week. You're burning 2 days a week typically to do it.
And then when you
'cause
get it
gotta
going
go out
and it
constantly.
gets going,
yeah.
They could
could be
literally empty a 55-gallon drum in 24 hours.
And
what are you going to do?
in
Go
the
back?
night?
Yeah,
Yeah, no, it's tough. Like
it's a lot of work.
You get 6-7 bears on a bait, like you're screwed. Like you're dumping so much food.
Yeah, no different. Well, no different than baiting deer. It's the same thing. Like if you get a really heavy spot, you constantly have to get in there and keep feed on it, keep checking your cards.
And if you have coons or pigs or
I think the negativity typically comes from people who don't want to do that work.
Yeah, no, 100%.
It's like, see, that's unfair. It's like, no, you just don't want to have to
You don't
put
want
in
to
the
put forth
time.
the effort.
I just don't think they know. They don't understand how much time it takes.
Sure, or they obviously don't know because they wouldn't be criticizing something that they have done.
True.
Right.
Yeah.
They just see it like, oh, well, that was easy. Like, just because it's a different method does not make it easy. No different than just because a crossbow is easier to shoot than a compound bow doesn't make it easy.
Nope.
It's hunting is hunting, and everyone has to be on the same page as that. We all have to agree on all the hunting methods being a fair chase thing, because they'd much rather see us fighting against each other than fighting against them.
Well, they're doing a good job.
They're doing a really good job of it, and we're doing a really bad job of it, and it needs to be talked about way more often than it is. Every form of hunting is a good form of hunting.
Yeah, I don't rifle hunt personally, but I help so many people a year, like friends, go out and kill bulls with a rifle. Like, and to me, it's like the easiest form of hunting, but for them, like, they're having the time of their life getting to shoot an elk. You know what I mean? So
that's good.
And for me, elk hunting anymore is about, one, who you get to experience it with, like who you're spending time in the woods with. That's the biggest thing for me. I love, like, elk camp to me has always been about spending time with people you want to be around. And then two, it's helping people, like, especially the guys that it's their first elk. Like, there is nothing I love more than taking someone out for the first time and calling an elk in for them and watching them get to shoot an elk. Right. Like, that is the coolest thing in the world to me. So, like, that's what I enjoy about elk hunting anymore. And whether they do it with a rifle or a bow or a crossbow, cool, whatever. To each its own. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The guys that hunt with rifle, honestly, will always kill way bigger animals than me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they always will. Yep. But, like, I just love bow hunting. Like, that's just my thing. It always has been, always will be, and I'll continue to do it until I can't anymore. And then the day when I can't bow hunt, man, I'm peacing out. Like, deuces. It's been a great life. Like, I'm out of here. See you, bye. You know what I mean? But yeah, we shouldn't bash on each other for the methods in which we hunt. It's, we got to support each their own. And yeah, if you want to rifle hunt and go, run out there with the pumpkin patch and have 30 dudes sitting on the ridge with you, cool. Go do it. That's you, man. Like, that's not me though. Yeah. So.
I got two more things I want to talk to you guys about, and then we'll call it a pod. This one is what I saw a video yesterday, and you guys mentioned a lot of states that you're going to hunt this year, and you have a following on Instagram.
Yeah, it's small, but we're getting there.
You certainly have a following. You have a following on some platforms, plural. Mm-hmm. So scrutiny of game regulations, proclamations is so important. But I'm going to tell you right now, from a guy who's hunted a lot of states, it's damn near impossible. It's not, but it's damn near to get all your ducks in a row.
It's so hard.
And there's these fellers called the Hunting Public. Yep. And they dropped a video yesterday, 5 minutes long. Mm-hmm. And the name of the video is, "We Got a Ticket." Yep. And I was like, oh, shit, you got me.
That's spicy.
I'm going to click. So they got me on there. And sure enough, they got a ticket. One of the dudes, I don't follow, like, I've met them at Vortex's Ambassador Summit. Great dudes. But one of the guys that wasn't at that summit got a ticket named Ted or something. Mm-hmm. And what his ticket was, I think he was in Mississippi. He's filming somebody who drew like a turkey tag. Mm-hmm. So it's pretty early. So it must have been like some limited entry early. Mm-hmm. And then in the regs down at the very bottom far corner says, anyone accompanying you has to have a hunting license. So Ted's there filming his friend who drew, doesn't have a turkey call, doesn't have a deke, he's wearing camo, has a camera. They got the hunt, they're heading back to the truck, game warden's waiting there to check hunting licenses.
Hunting licenses.
Where's your hunting license? He's like, I'm not hunting, I'm filming. Oh, if you turn to page 37, section C, asterisk, and it's a new rule.
Of course.
And most probably game wardens would have been like, hey, I'm going to get you either a written warning or like, hey, this is a year grace period. This is like a pretty nuanced rule.
Right.
Not this game warden. She wrote him a ticket right then and there.
Hammered him.
Do you think it's probably because he had a camera in hand? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like for sure. And it sets a precedent. Now, I'm not defending the dude broke the law, got a ticket. I'm just telling you two, you just told me a lot of places you're going to hunt. Mm-hmm. I know because I have found out after the fact of like, oh, dude, I could have got a ticket for, say, this or that. Like, you really got to scrutinize those regs.
Gotcha.
And again, supporting one another, we need to be better about not completely destroying people. Like,
I say we hang them.
Anybody, so like anybody that's hunted in their entire life, in one way or another, at some point in their career,
has broken a law,
You're not wrong.
has broken a rule.
Yep.
And
guaranteed.
And people like make an honest mistake and they will destroy people's souls over it. And I'm like, I want to go to them and be like, you made the exact same mistake. You just didn't get caught. Right.
Yep.
Like if someone's belligerently poaching and like belligerently killing animals out of season and stuff like that, that's a completely different ballgame. I'm not talking about anybody like that. But I'm talking about people that go out, try to have a good time, go out and hunt. And like, maybe they miss the fact that like, you know, they punched their tag, but you had to punch their tag within 5 minutes, you know, and they get a ticket for it because they punched their tag 10 minutes later instead of 5 minutes later. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like just like what you said, little hidden rules here and there. Like people need to be better. Like everyone makes mistakes. I've made a million in my life. You know what I mean? Like we can't destroy people over a little mistake like that. Like we've got to be better about that. We've got to be better about, you know, like you just said, hanging the individuals that belligerently are just poaching all the time. Like I don't agree with that in the least sense, but we got to be better about supporting one another and quit tearing people down. Because have you ever tried to read the Arkansas Game and Fish regs, like on how many whitetails you can shoot or how many tags you can buy? Like it's a nightmare. I call every single fish and game office when I go hunt a different state to get all the rules, and I will ask them if
What's the most common violations?
If I see a game warden, like I will literally walk up to the game warden and go talk to him before I do anything. Like there's a spot in Wyoming that I was hunting because I'm on a new side of the state this year, mostly private land, and I didn't know about this area. It was a conservation area for pheasants. It's public land, but it's got red lines running through it, and that's all you know. Like I'm like, can I walk through this? Can I hunt this? Like what can I do? And so like I literally drove and found a game and fish officer, and I was like, hey, I want to hunt this. Can I? And he's like, no, you can't even walk through it. You can't step foot through it. And I was like, cool, glad I didn't do that. But you have to be so careful because there's so many dumb little rules, or states don't publish great rules for you to follow. Like it's tough.
Well, I think that a great example of that, and I'd be curious to get your take on it, is what Bomar got in trouble for. Right?
The Lacey Act, right?
He supposedly, from what I understand, and people just massacre him, but he's also got like 10 million followers, right? So there's just more people looking at it. So you're probably getting it worse. But supposedly he wasn't hunting over bait, but there was bait out that the guide had put out that he was supposedly unaware of in a place where you can't bait. Is that what you were aware of?
I don't know. I have never.
You've never
looked into any of it.
Okay. Well, that's what I was under the impression of. And dude, people just massacre him for that.
Yeah.
It's like, if he didn't even know it was there, how are you like throwing him under the bus as this big old poacher or something?
Yeah,
I don't
it's
get
very
that. He's
polarizing.
Well, sure,
So
but
there's
that shouldn't change the reality of what did you do?
Yeah.
Right. And I just that still just bugs me.
Or
I don't really have a relationship with the guy.
Yeah,
I don't have a dog in the fight, but I think it's ridiculous how bad he's been treated.
Or what him and Sarah do for the sport. Like you want to talk about activists for the sport of archery and for the sport of hunting. Like, they're huge.
Well, I can tell you right now,
Huge.
I was at the Iowa Deer Classic, and there were two other people of notability that were there, and one of them was the Bomars, and one of them was Chris B. And the Bomars booth was like 1 aisle away from the bathroom. So whenever I would leave the gray light booth to go to the bathroom, I'd deliberately try to walk back by their way because they were there the entire time to sign autographs. There was a line of 10 to 30 people every time I walked by without fail.
Wow.
And I went by Chris B's booth. It was off the other direction. And there was almost always people in line, but it wasn't even remotely like that. So for as many people as massacre the guy, there's sure an awful lot of people that like him.
Okay.
Like, and I didn't even compare at all. It was pretty wild. So
and I try to look at people for the good they do and always give them the benefit of the doubt. You know what I mean? I'm not if there's anything I've learned in my life, like in a journey, like religious, everything like that, it's, don't judge other people. And so I always look at people, I try to give them the benefit of the doubt, and I always try to find the best in every single person because you can find good in every person, no matter what they've done or who they are. And so I always try to find the good in them and what they do for the sport. And like, I've met Josh, I've met Sarah. Like Josh is a little quirky. It's Josh. He is who he is. But deep down, like Josh is a great person. Like he is a super good dude. And like, did he make a mistake? I don't know. I don't look into it. I don't want to essentially I just want to give him the benefit of the doubt that he did not know it was there. And that, he didn't know the guide was baiting and, he got caught in an honest mistake. And even if he did, like, I hope he learned from it and doesn't ever do it again. You know what I mean? Like, cool, we all make mistakes. Let's move on from it and let's be better because of it.
Well, and I refuse to accept that somebody that's that much in the public eye and hunts so much, like it's his entire life, would be foolish enough to violate a rule like that. Like I believe he didn't know it was 100%. There wholeheartly, because I don't think he's dumb enough to do that.
And maybe it's a gray area like Wyoming. Like Wyoming, you can't hunt over bait, but you can bait. Like, and you can kill an animal moving to bait, but you can't kill them over the bait. Like, it's a big gray area, right?
Is there a determining distance?
No, like there's no, like that's what I'm saying. Like there's rules like this written by Game and Fish, and they're terrible at, like, you know, outlining. Like, every rule should be black and white, dumbed down, so a 12-year-old can pick up the regs, because 12 is when you can start hunting in Wyoming, right? A 12-year-old should be able to pick up the regulations and not have to have their parents, you know, essentially translate the rules for them on how to hunt. They should be able to pick those rules up and be like, I can't be here, here, here. I can't do this, this, this. Done deal.
Yeah.
Well,
It should be that easy.
You guys brought up Wyoming, which was the last part of this pod I wanted to talk about. Yesterday, a big ruling
Oh, yeah, corner crossing.
happened. So guys from, I think, Missouri, 4 of them, have this cool ladder that they brought, because the year before they were hunting in Wyoming, might even been a general area, and they noticed that there was a pile of elk rutting their asses off in this private property that blocked access to this public that nobody was hunting, and those elk were rutting hard. So the next year, I believe, and I might be getting my details mixed, but it doesn't matter. You get the point. They bring a ladder that goes up and over
the corner.
And they go over, and they freaking hammer.
Gotta love it. Innovative people,
Hammer
man.
the elk. They tag out.
Yeah.
And they get seen by the ranch manager of the probably million or billionaire owner. And he gets Fish and Game involved, whatever, and he gets them turned in for trespassing airspace. Because technically they never step foot on the private.
Yeah.
It's where 2 corners meet, right? So you have 4 corners. They went diagonally. They went a ladder. They literally never stepped foot, but they were arguing, no, you violated our airspace. And the reasoning is that they think if this access for public consumption will lower the value of their property over time. Okay?
Sure.
And a bunch of other stuff like that.
Well, sure, especially if they're selling hunts and things like that.
Which they probably are. I don't know the details.
They probably are.
Long story short, the dudes were going to pay their fines, and then I think maybe maybe BHA of all places. I'm not a huge BHA fan, even though I'm a lifetime member. That was before I found out they were woke. Might have fronted the money and were like, hey, no, we'll get your back. We'll pay for your lawyer bills. Like, go.
Yeah, it turned into a federal case.
Yeah.
And so they go and fight and win, and then it goes to an appeal court, which took forever. And I think just yesterday it ruled in the hunter's favor.
Yep.
So is this over? No, this could go all the way to the Supreme Court. I highly doubt it. But that's 2 big W's in a row.
Huge.
Yeah.
And that's District 9 or Court Circuit number 10. I can't remember, but it's for Wyoming, not Montana. So technically, you could corner cross in 2025 Wyoming and be pretty much good to go. I think you got to do it right. You got to have like that ladder.
Well, and there's some
maybe make a
spots
podium
you can,
ladder.
there you go. Podium lightweight ladder you can throw down.
Podium
3
corner
foot.
crosser.
Yep. No, if you've ever been to Wyoming, and I live on that side of the state now, right? My original home for me is just completely surrounded by national forest. I've never had to worry about it.
Right.
And then I moved down to Laramie now, and it's like a nightmare. Like everything, that whole side of the state is one giant checkerboard.
Literally pull it up on Onyx, Josh. You will see it's a checkerboard across the state lower half.
Wow.
Yeah, the whole lower state is completely checkerboard. And Josh is 110% right. 90% of the people that throw fits over this are guys that have their ranches leased out by hunters or by outfitters.
Yep.
And the outfitters are 90% of the time are the people who turn them in. It's not the ranchers that really care. It's the outfitters or the ranch hands. You know, they're paying them big money.
But what does that boil down to?
Yeah, it's all money. It's all money. But like, if ranchers weren't assholes about it, like I would just be like, go knock on the door and get permission to cross their property and go hunt. But they're not. They're not like that. I can tell you firsthand, I knocked on like 50 doors last year trying to find a spot to go hunt whitetail. And every person there is like, absolutely not. Or no, I've got it leased out already. Or you know what I mean? Like I couldn't find anywhere
You couldn't
down
pull
there
a
to
seek
hunt.
one?
No, well, I tried, and I couldn't. Like I asked.
Those guys are sure good at that.
They're
Yeah,
legit.
they're
They're
amazing.
legit good
I don't
at
know
that.
if they have a lot of money and they offer that when they go there or not, but I don't know. I'm a huge fan. They
Yeah.
crush it with the
Yeah.
asking private property and get permission. But yeah, I couldn't find anybody that would. It was wild.
So that's going to be opening up a lot of country.
Opens up a ton. Some of the biggest mule deer in the state of Wyoming right now, people can't get to because it's checkerboarded.
Yep.
And the fact that people can corner cross and get to some of these giant mule deer and have a chance to, shoot one before an outfitter does, I'm like, I'm all for it. Go for it, man.
Well, it does kind of blow my mind that that's not legal to just walk across. Like
Yeah.
if two corners touch each other and you can't walk from one to the next.
And generally there's surveyor
just-
posts there.
Yeah.
Like,
Yes.
There's literally surveyor
With a
posts.
bullseye in the
Yeah.
middle of it.
Yeah.
Right where the corner is.
So yeah, that just baffles me that this is even an issue. Like it's silly.
And another problem is 90% of those old ranches and stuff, the fence lines aren't on the
Aren't on
actual
that.
property.
True
board.
that.
Like,
True
and so
that.
like you're walking and you get to a fence and it's like, man, it shows I got 40 more yards of public before I get to private. And then you try to argue with those guys that like, hey, your fence is wrong and that's actually the fence line. But like what's crazy is I've done that before and I've been like, man, there's no way. And like I'll look like 15 yards past the corner and there's the surveyor post sitting there. So like it's there, like their fence is just 110% wrong.
Yeah.
And you cannot rely on OnX or any other mapping software. There'll be an asterisk if you
Yeah.
go to their website.
No,
Like,
they
like-
got to legally cover themselves.
they have to cover themselves, but they're pretty damn
They're
close.
closer than the fence lines are. I'll tell you that much.
But it's still like you got to do your own due diligence.
Yep.
And if you're going to end up in court, I don't think you're going to want to be like, oh yeah, we just hopped the fence. You better have that ladder
No,
Yeah.
to be safe. And I just don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze.
no,
man.
and that's what I always tell people. It's never worth getting your hunting license taken away
Right.
or going to court or anything like that. No animal is worth that.
Yeah,
it
but
doesn't matter what it
but
is.
nor
It's
should
not
a
worth it.
nor should a landowner be able to make your life damn near impossible
No.
to access land they don't own.
Yep.
And that's kind of the messed up part.
That is
like
the
if
messed
those
up part.
touch, there should be a distance of accessibility. Like you go to the corner post and you're within 4 feet either side of it or whatever, you can legally walk through it. It should be that simple instead of the way they've got it.
Yeah.
I know a
That's just
guy,
silly.
I'm not going to say his name of his business, who owns so many leases. He's got everything leased up in Wyoming for this operation. And when I looked at it, it is 1,000% checkerboarded, all of it. And they've had it to themselves, and they have amazing mule deer.
Yep. Those desert bucks are big.
He might be in trouble now.
Yeah, they're big.
Well, you could just say he had a good run.
It was a good run.
Even
Yeah.
still, though, like you just said, is the juice worth the squeeze? There's so many people that see this court case now and are like, I don't want to go through that, or I don't have the money to go through that, and they won't do it. You know what I mean? Like it's still like, to me, I'm still always going to go back home to hunt mule deer. Like I don't know if I'll ever hunt mule deer on that side of the state.
Right.
The only thing I'll do is if I ever get lucky enough to draw a type 1 tag instead of just hunting general, general over the counter tags. If I ever draw a type 1, then I'll start looking at, being an expert in corner crossing. But yeah, no, I always just go back to where I know there's a ton of public and where I'm not going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Fellas, thanks for coming on the pod today. We talked about everything from target panic to corner crossing and all in between. We'll do a follow-up with Towson in a couple months to see how it's going on his journey. Good luck at your tournament this
I
weekend.
appreciate
Triple
it.
Crown champ.
Yep.
Shoot well. Josh, we're going to follow up with you on the index journey.
Absolutely.
I think that'll be very interesting. I will lean into what you learn.
All right.
Be
Sounds
cool.
good.
And your Instagram, we'll put a link in the show notes for
Perfect.
your Instagram. We'll put a link for whatever you tell me.
Instagram and YouTube probably be good.
That's what we got. Separations in the preparation. We'll catch you on the next one.